Hi, welcome to the recap room. In today's video, we'll be talking about an action, adventure and sci-fi film entitled Edge of Tomorrow. Warning, spoilers ahead. The movie begins with several news outlets reporting about an alien invasion that caused millions of casualties. The entire world has been affected by it, and all of humanity is at stake. But after 5 years, victory has been won in Verdun, but the battle is not over yet. Major William Cage, the US Army Media Relations Officer, revealed that because of the new jacket technology and even with limited training, they have been able to create super soldiers. One of them is Rita Vrataski, who they call the Angel of Verdun, who the world sees as the new hope for this war. Because of the new technology, which they call the exosuit, Rita was able to kill hundreds of mimics on only her first day. The officers believe that with this technology, they are finally going to defeat the enemies. Cage reveals that Operation Downfall is going to be the largest mechanized invasion in history. We then see Cage arriving in a helicopter in London to meet the general at the United Defense Force headquarters. The general talks to him about the Operation Downfall, which he knows would cost the lives of a lot of good soldiers. As the US media officer, the general asks him to sell the invasion. He reveals that Cage will ship for the coast in an hour and that his camera crew is standing by. He'll be on the beach with the first wave in France. But Cage refuses, saying that he's not really a soldier and that he can't stand the sight of blood. The general then tells him that it's not an offer, but an order, and that he has already cleared it with his CO. Cage then stands and tries to blackmail the general, and it seems to have worked. But as soon as he leaves his office, the general has him arrested. He runs, but he was caught by an officer who tasered him. Moments later, he wakes up on a pile of luggage. He was shocked when an officer calls him maggot and asks him to stand on his feet. Sergeant Farrell approaches him and reveals that he is in the forward operating base Heathrow, and that he came with the fresh recruits. Cage introduces himself as an American officer and asks if he can call his CO in Washington. Master Sergeant Farrell reveals that the VOB is in lockdown, no call in or out, but after Cage persuading him to sort it out, he agrees. Sergeant Farrell then leads him to a tent where Cage realizes that he will not take him to a phone. He takes out a paper that says Cage is a deserter and it's Scott impersonating an officer. The sergeant then calls him Private Cage. He led him to the J Squad and found that all were gambling. As punishment, he made them eat up their cards. The sergeant introduces Cage as a deserter. He gives the squad the responsibility to make him combat ready by tomorrow. Later on, the squad gears up with the exosuit, but Cage has no idea how that thing works. Griff helps him, but he says he's afraid he might hurt somebody with not knowing how to operate it. But Griff replies he can't hurt anybody with the safety on. They all march together into the transport airplanes, but Cage tries to run away. On the plane, his squad makes fun of him. With 1 minute left, he asks how to turn off the safety, but they can't hear him and no one answers. They were about to drop off when suddenly the aircraft was hit by the enemy. One by one, his squad drops off and the sergeant asks him to do it too, but he was hesitant and so he was the last one out. He drops to the beach and sees chaos all over. He's trying to figure out the suit, but he still doesn't know how to do it. A plane was falling in his direction, but luckily, he ducks right on time. He then sees Rita fighting the mimics, but soon after, she was killed right in front of him. Cage tries to run in the opposite direction, but the Master Sergeant stops him. The squad talks to each other and regroups. One by one, the enemy tries to take them all out. Luckily, Cage was able to make his suit work in time. But another mimic appears. He tries to shoot it, but his suit says he needs to reload. Seeing the bomb near him, he grabs it and uses it against the enemy. It blows the alien's head off, but its blood spills on him, causing his face to melt. Cage screams in pain, but suddenly wakes up to the luggage where he was earlier. A bus drives by him, and he recognizes the woman on the poster. It was the person the woman killed right in front of him. Everything happened the same way. He was greeted by the same officers, and he was shocked he already knew what they would do or tell him. Cage can't believe that he is back at it again. Knowing what would happen, he tried to warn his fellow officer, but it was too late. He sees Rita fighting again, but this time, Cage helps her. But he was shot in the chest, and instead of the woman helping him, she took her batteries instead. A mimic appears in front of him, and suddenly, he wakes up in the same place again. This time, he went directly to Master Sergeant Farrell and tells him everything he knows about him and what would happen. But he did not listen and brought him instead to the J Squad. He reveals that he knows their names and knows that they are cards under the blanket. He takes the time to inform them what will happen, but instead, they put duct tape in his mouth. He managed to remove it before the landing, but it was too late. He was the first one to drop off this time. On the beach, he tries to save his teammate knowing that a plane is going to land on him. As a result, he died and woke up on the luggage again. After going back again and again to the same day, he managed to dodge the many waves that killed him in the previous time. He successfully managed to save Rita and tells her what would happen. Saying that Cage knows what would happen, she drops her sword and tells him to come to find her when he wakes up. Suddenly, the explosion kills them both. Now that he's back with the J Squad, he does things differently. He covered the cows so they won't get punished. He goes on physical training with the squad and tries to escape by rolling onto the army truck, but he failed. On his second try, he successfully dodged it and was able to escape. Cage finds Rita in training and tells her that she told him to find her when he wakes up. Vrataski warns Cage not to talk about his ability to anyone, or else he's going to end up in the psychiatric ward. Worst case, he'll get dissected for study. She asks him about his experiences, and she knows too that the enemy knows they're coming. She reveals that what happened to him happened to her, but she lost the ability. She asks for his help to win the war. She led him to the weapons repair department, where they met a man who knows that Rita died several times already before. He introduces himself as Dr. Carter, a physicist and biologist. In addition, he adds that he's the only one who'll believe what's happening to him. No one understands mimic biology better than he. The doctor then shows him his study of the mimics. He says that they are not fighting an army, but he must think of this as a single organism. The one Cage killed is an alpha and very rare, and it's like the central nervous system. He then shows him the brain that controls them all, called Omega. The Omega has the ability to control time. Whenever an alpha is killed, an automatic response is triggered and the Omega starts the day over again. But this time, it can remember what's going to happen, just like what's happening to Cage. And that's why it can't be defeated, because it knows the future. Cage then was curious why they won at Verdun. Rita answers that they were allowed to win that time. This time, Cage has the ability to change the outcome of the war when he killed the Alpha. He inadvertently entered the enemy's nervous system. As a result, he has seized control of the Omega's ability to reset the day. Now the plan is he has to die every day until the Omega is destroyed. They reveal that he will start having visions of the Omega and eventually find its location. Meanwhile, since he's not combat ready, Rita starts training him. After a while, he breaks his back, and then Rita tells him that if he gets injured on the field, he better make sure he dies. During her time, when she was hit and was transfused with someone else's blood, she lost the power, so with no other choice, Rita shoots him. And this happens again and again, every time he gets injured in battle. And after some time, he eventually sees a vision of the Omega. He describes its location to the doctor, and Rita says training is already over. Their plan is that Cage should bring Rita to the Omega so she could end it, but first, they find a way to escape on the beach. They try several times to make it out of the beach, but each time, Rita ends up dead. Cage becomes frustrated and drinks at a bar. There he finds out that after losing on the beach, the mimics eventually take over that place as well. So Cage goes back to training and is now much improved than before. During the meeting, the doctor reveals that he has already found the Omega's location. But Cage says it doesn't make any difference because no matter how careful they plan, they can get off that beach. Once again, they're back on the beach battling with the mimics. This time, both of them know where the mimics are going to appear and manage to kill them. They have successfully escaped the beach. Their problem this time is getting a vehicle to get further inland. The next plan is that Cage will head for the SUV, drawing the mimics to him, while Rita goes for the minivan. Before leaving, Cage warns Rita not to forget to disconnect the caravan before she takes off. They proceeded with the plan and goes to the vehicle. Rita successfully drives the minivan and gets Cage. Just when they thought they were safe, a mimic comes out of the trailer since Rita forgot to unhook it. Luckily, Cage killed it. While on the road, Cage brings up Rita's personal life. He mentions Hendrix, but she doesn't want to talk about him since he's dead. They ran out of gas and find a farmhouse nearby. While searching the house, Rita discovers a helicopter and wants to use it, but Cage says he's afraid of crashing. As she tries to untie it, Cage learns that Rita has a large wound on her back. As he was dressing her wound, Rita kept insisting that they have to find the keys to the helicopter. He suggests that they rest and spend the night at the farmhouse, but Rita has another thing in mind. She wants to just reset again by killing Cage. He stops her and says they should wait since there's coffee ready. Seeing that Cage knows exactly how she wants her coffee done, she asks how many times they've been there. Apparently, the keys are in his pocket and he can already fly the helicopter. It's there that he reveals that if she starts the engine, she'll die. No matter what Cage does, he reveals that it's as far as Rita can make it. Unbothered, Rita goes out and prepares the helicopter. Cage follows and says there's a mimic bird 20 yards away and it attacks when she starts the engine. Only one of them will make it. He reveals that the only version they haven't tried is that Rita goes back to the farmhouse safe. Cage is concerned that she'll die forever if she ends up killing the Omega. Just as he predicted, the moment she starts the engine, the mimic attacks, killing Rita in the process. Once again, Cage is killed and ends up at the same place. This time, he decides not to involve her in the journey. He goes with his squad and asks for extra ammo and battery. Finally, he flies the helicopter and arrives at the location where he saw the Omega in his vision. He enters the facility, but the Omega isn't there. Instead, there were mimics waiting to attack him. He realizes that they did not want to kill him, but instead, they want him to bleed out. Because of it, he decides to drown himself to repeat the day over. He meets with Rita and Dr. Carter. They concluded that the visions are traps. Cage notices the invention that Dr. Carter made and they decide to use it. But it's not finished, and he needs some equipment from the White Wall. Cage and Rita go there, and after several tries, Cage memorized the steps on how they can get it. Finally, they both make it to the General. It looks like they've had this conversation several times already, and so Cage knew how to prove to him that he knows what will happen next. This time, he successfully convinces him to give back the transponder that he confiscated before from the doctor. But as soon as they leave the building, soldiers are waiting outside to attack them. To restart things over again, Rita shoots Cage. Afterward, they manage to escape from the officers and escape in a car. There, they use the transponder on Cage. He sticks it in his leg and he starts having visions. He sees the Louvre and the exact location of the Omega in Paris. They hurriedly leave, but they were stopped by a man in an exosuit. Cage was shot in the leg, and so he was given blood in the hospital. He tries to escape and look for Rita, but he failed. But after a few minutes, Rita finds him there and was about to stab him. He then reveals that they gave him blood and lost his power. With no other choice, they sneak out of the hospital. They knew they needed soldiers, and so he finds a way to convince the J Squad to help them. They were hesitant to follow him since for them it was the first time they met him, but he introduces Rita to them. That night, they steal a military aircraft and head toward Paris. During the roll call, the sergeant learns that the J Squad is missing. Before dropping off, the mimics already attacked them in the plane. The aircraft crashed, and the attack caused them to lose many lives from the team. Now they are low on ammo and don't know what to do. Cage comes with a plan to use the damaged aircraft to reach the building. Skinner and Griff decide to stay to buy them some time. They succeed in making the aircraft move, but the mimics follow them. Some of their team members die during the attack, and the only ones left are Rita and Cage. They made it inside the museum, and finally, they saw the Omega in flesh, but an Alpha is lurking around. Cage suggests that he can take the Alpha while Rita kills the Omega, but Rita disapproves and says he won't make it. She hands over the grenade and thanks him for getting her that far. She then kisses him and runs to lure the Alpha away. Cage uses that opportunity to get closer to the Omega. He dives into the water, but the Mimic follows him from behind. Not long after, the Mimic stabs him, but he already drops the grenade on the Omega. It is then shown that he was able to release the pins of the grenades. The Omega exploded, and all the other Mimics die. While floating in the water, the Omega's blood fuses with his body. His eyes turned black, and he woke up again, but this time in the helicopter on his way to the General. He watches the news where the General was speaking. He reveals that a large surge of energy was detected in Paris. As a result, the enemy lost the capacity to fight. He visits the J Squad and sees all of them alive and well. Afterward, he meets Rita at the same place where they first saw each other many times before. The movie ends with Cage smiling, knowing that they finally succeeded. And that's the end of this video. For more movie recaps like this, make sure to like and subscribe. Don't forget to hit the notification bell as well, so that you are notified on our next uploads. Thank you for watching.